It's been a tough few years for South Africa under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma, but his deputy and newly elected ANC president is determined to turn things around, and he's preparing to take this message to the world stage.
This renewal and the unity purpose that has now been announced through the governing parties conference gives us a great opportunity to face the world unashamedly, to face the world with a positive message, and to tell the world that much as we're downgraded, we've got green shoots beginning to emerge.
Ramaphosa hit the ground running since his election win last month and seems prepared for the mammoth tasks ahead, growing the economy and repairing South Africa's image. Every year, world leaders, finance ministers and the heavyweights of global business arrive at Davos to discuss the way forward with the aim of solving the world's problems. Ramaphosa is hoping to use the event to woo back investors to solve some of South Africa's most pressing challenges.
Our most important task right now is to address the challenge of jobs, inequality, and poverty. And we will be able to address all that by getting our economy to recover. And we want to make South Africa an attractive domain or an attractive country for investment.
Investor confidence seems to be seeping back in. Ramaphosa is saying all the right things. While many are pleased, they're also waiting to see if he can deliver on all of these promises. Sumitra and Nydoo, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, let's get you more on that story now. I'm joined live from Johannesburg by Angelo Coppola. Angelo, welcome. Now, as we saw in that report, there are several goals for South Africa's deputy president in Davos this year. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, Beatrice, in a statement issued by Ramaphosa late this afternoon, he mentioned the fact that there were 14 actions that had been developed in 2017 to ensure what they call continuity of fiscal consolidation trajectories. That's after the new finance minister, Malusi Gigaba, announced mid-year that South African government needed some $5 billion additional dollars from taxpayers. There's also in that statement mention made of funding and broader reforms in governance and the private sector involvement in SOEs, which are the state-owned entities. But the biggest talking point is likely to be the changes to the Eskom board over the weekend and the move by the Justice Department to act on corruption allegations. Parliament is also getting tough on another SOE, Transnet, and has subpoenaed its management and the board to appear before it. Added to this, those global business and government leaders will probably want to get insights from Ramaphosa about what is going to happen to Mr. Zuma and whether he's actually going to step down before his term comes to an end, and more importantly, when. However, there is some bad news that's just come in, and that's the fact that the IMF has just scaled back South Africa's economic growth to 0.9% for 2018. So South Africa has a steep hill to climb, and Ramaphosa has a big story to sell, Beatrice.
Quite right. Well, has the World Economic Forum in the past proven beneficial for South Africa as a country? What is its significance going forward?
Well, it's always been a meeting point for global leaders. It's where people sort of share thoughts and they connect. For South Africa, it's been a stage to pitch the country as an investment destination. But measuring the number of actual business deals that are signed at Davos is a little more tricky. It's more a case of South Africa having to be there, front of mind, putting on a brave face for what has been a trying couple of years economically and politically. This will be an important Davos, I'm told, for Ramaphosa because he's the de facto leader now. And world leaders at Davos are going to be dealing with him now on an equal footing. Ramaphosa has to use this opportunity, I'm told, to show that he's in charge of a new team who are going to do things differently. So he's got a lot of work to do, and the actions will have to speak louder than any speeches he makes at Davos, Beatrice.
Now, we will see several of the same issues discussed last year at the forum, Angelo. One of them is intra-African trade, visa-free travel as well in Africa. Has South Africa made progress on these fronts in the last year?
Well, inter-Africa trade remains a challenge. Bureaucracy is probably the key issue there that's causing the bottlenecks. We heard again last week that moving a single shipping container from South Africa to Angola requires around 400 pages of documentation. Trade with other SADC member countries around us here is also a challenge, and the road borders where these vehicles have to cross is still very efficient. The one-stop border post, for example, between Zimbabwe and South Africa at Beit Bridge is still a pipe dream, even though it's been in the planning for a number of years now. On the visa-free travel side to South Africa, well, there hasn't been much movement there. In fact, there hasn't been any. Nothing's changed. And this while Angola just recently in December, in fact, announced that it's relaxing its visa requirements for visitors. But generally, continental visa-free travel is moving in the right direction. 4 years ago, only 5 African countries offered liberal arrival or no visa access for citizens of all African countries. That's now climbed to 14. But unfortunately, South Africa remains steadfast, citing security and other concerns for not relaxing that visa-free application or process, Beatrice.
Well, many thanks, Angelo, for that insight. Of course, Angelo Coppola joining us there in Johannesburg. Well, let's take a look now at some of the topics that have been discussed at this World Economic Forum over the years. Focus shifted following the 2008 financial crisis, with delegates encouraged to discuss how people's lives were being affected. Now, after years of review and introspection, discussions started leaning towards common solutions and a shared future. In 2016, the theme of the event was Mastering the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which focused, of course, on how technological developments will affect the global economy. Now, from shaping the post-crisis world in 2009 to creating a shared future in the fractured world this year, discussions often address a broad range of issues, from economics to politics, as well as social change.